Week 14, it's playoff time. I'm Dustin. Welcome to Fantasy Smack Talk. If you want to see my write-up on this, click on the link in the description. You can see all the guys' names, teams, percent they're owned, and my little write-up on each one. So you're getting ready for the playoffs. Let's start with the running backs. First one's Mike Gillislee. I think he should be added in all leagues at this point. If you own LaShawn McCoy, you need to get Gillislee. I mean, it's really that simple. You need to look at your team, look at your bench. I mean, who's actually going to make your starting lineup? That's what you need to look at. If you have a guy, a receiver like a wide receiver 5, where you're going to need 2 injuries before you're even going to start him, drop him, pick up Gillislee just for some as a safety net. You know, you should be doing that at all of your big end running back players. Got DeMarco Murray, you can get Henry. Go ahead and make those moves because those are going to be more important than having a wide receiver 5 at this point. So Gillislee, he did get some goal line carries. It's a little worrisome for McCoy owners, but McCoy's having a great year. But just handcuff him with Gillislee just in case McCoy gets hurt. I want to talk about the Green Bay situation for a minute. It looks like Starks is getting phased out. So you got Christine Michael and Ty Montgomery. I don't understand why the Packers aren't just going toward Montgomery. He seems to be their most efficient runner. He's averaged over 5 yards per carry so far. Maybe they're worried about durability and can he actually handle 15 carries a game. I don't know, but if it looks like Starks, like I said, is getting phased out. So Montgomery or Michael, I think at this point are worth ads in pretty much all leagues just until we see how this works. I mean, one of those could have value over the last few weeks of the fantasy season. So my money's on Montgomery, maybe having a little bit more value, but it's kind of hard to say at this point, but it is still interesting. Rex Burkhead's worth a look in deeper leagues. I think he's going to need a Jeremy Hill injury to have a lot of value, but he's getting more touches than I thought he would. I mean, I knew he'd get some touches, but he's almost doing what Bernard was doing. So if Hill were to go down, Burkhead could have big value, but as of right now, he still has value in deeper PPR leagues. Receivers, it's not a bad time. If you need a receiver, then it's not a bad time because there's a lot of interesting receivers out there worth grabbing. Tyler Gabriel, even after getting picked up in a ton of leagues last week, he's still only on about 40% of leagues. And he's interesting because his floor, my thing on him is I thought he had a low floor from week to week, but it's slowly starting to creep up, and he almost had a touchdown week 13, which have made his week even better. But he continues to get targeted. Sanu and Julio Jones are a little banged up right now, so Gabriel, I think, is going to continue to be heavily involved in that offense. He still will be a little bit hit or miss, but I think he should be added in all leagues at this point just because of his big play potential. Same with Ted Ginn Jr., only owning 25% of leagues. Another big game from him, another long touchdown. That's what he does, and even more than Gabriel, Ginn has even a higher floor. He's been heavily involved with that offense ever since their bye week. And he's having a great season, kind of under the radar. And he finished strong last year as well. So he could be a guy that could definitely help win you some fantasy championships. And at this point, I think Ted Ginn needs to be almost put right there in the wide receiver 1 discussion from week to week from here on out, which is what he's been doing as of late. So the fact that he's on the wire in 75% of leagues, I think is kind of crazy. We need to start trusting Ted Ginn a little bit more. He's a good fantasy receiver. I know he's been kind of tagged with that, just deep threat, hit or miss type receiver, but I don't know if he's necessarily that anymore. Well, I don't think he is. Malcolm Mitchell, I didn't talk about him last week because I was like, once Gronk comes back, he's gonna go back to the sidelines more. But once the Gronk news hit, Malcolm Mitchell got picked up in a lot of leagues. He's still only owning 30% of leagues though, and now Danny Amendola is banged up. So Mitchell's going to get even more touches. So, I mean, they got to throw it to someone. I mean, they got their 2 receiving running backs, and they got Bennett, they got Edelman, but Mitchell's going to be the guy that really gets the biggest bump here, and he's been consistently involved as of late. Again, from week to week, I'd say he's right on the border at this point of being put in the wide receiver 1 discussion. I mean, I'd say he's probably more wide receiver 2, but the upside is definitely there, and we all saw his touchdown potential over the last few weeks. So Malcolm Mitchell needs to be owned in all leagues. Tyler Lockett, another receiver that's got a big upside from week to week. I'm calling him a must-add in deeper leagues. I don't think he should be added in all leagues just yet because his floor is still really low. But that Seattle offense, they're looking just like they did at the end of last year, looking strong, looking healthy. and Lockett looked that as well. He looked very healthy week 13, so I don't mind him down the stretch. Looking at quarterbacks, I want to talk about one, RG3. It looks like he's going to take back over as the quarterback for the Browns. We'll see if they can get a win. But here's the thing. Deeper leagues, 2 QB leagues, you got to consider RG3 just because of what he can do with his legs. If he can throw in 40, 60 rushing yards, that's going to be well on his way to a decent week. So, again, this is for deeper leagues, 2 quarterback leagues. Don't do anything crazy, but it looks like he's going to get a chance to start again. And we've seen what Kaepernick's been able to do, minus week 13 because of that weather game. But we've seen what Kaepernick's been able to do in terms of fantasy points when you're throwing in those rushing yards. They make a big difference, so he could be interesting. Ladarius Green finally broke out. I mean, this is what we were excited for, coming into the year, but then he had all that weird injury stuff and went on IR. But Green looks to be healthy, and on that high-powered Steelers offense, there's going to be plenty of yards to go around. Great week 13. He could be a very interesting tight end down the stretch. So, if you got like a Fedorowicz or a Fleener, one of those type of tight ends, you might want to consider going with Green. I think he might have a slightly higher upside from here on out. My pick-up and play defense is going to be Cincinnati. They're going up against that Cleveland winless team. I think that could be a decent... The Bengals have been pretty solid as of late. I think that's a pretty safe pick-up and play defense this week, and they do have a high upside. And I don't really talk about kickers too much, but I want to throw in Prater. We saw week 13 how weather can affect the games, and kickers get hurt with that by far with the most. So, you need to be considering where your kicker's kicking over these last few weeks. And one of the reasons I like Prater for 2 reasons. He kicks in a dome 2 of his last 3 games, and the Lions really struggled in the red zone week 13. So if that trend continues, Prater could just keep racking up the points. So I like him. 2 of the 3 games he plays in the dome to finish the season. So Prater, I don't mind him if you're looking for a kicker. Click on the link in the description to see the full list. As always, if you've got questions, post them in the forums, and we'll see you later this week.